Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Courier 13 podcast. I'm Warner Andrews. This is going to be another repeat of the theme of being at my parents' house. As you can see, this is my childhood bedroom. Also, the lights are shining down like it's like this heavenly aura, which is real cool. It's a little cool, I might say. So my guest today is a fellow screenwriter and friend, collaborator, John Riley. John Riley is an excellent and very thoughtful screenwriter. This episode really is just dedicated to us talking about our processes of writing, what makes us write, why we write. This is a very writer-centric show. So if you're a writer and you like hearing other writers talk through writing, this is a good episode for you. As always, of course, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. Also, if you want to follow the podcast on Instagram, you can follow @podcast Courier 13. Guys, this is kind of the holiday episode, and we're kind of ringing out the new year as well. And I'm so excited that this is going to be, we're 13 episodes in, and we're still going. Also, I have a very exciting bit of news. I know a lot of people have been asking me to make an audio version for the podcast. I will just say, look out in the very near future for for this show to be on other platforms aside from YouTube. And I'm very excited to share the show in that capacity. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Courier 13 podcast with guest John Riley. And without further ado, let's start the show. This is the Courier 13 podcast with Warner Andrews, a weekly think tank of in-depth conversations among rising filmmakers. My goal with this show is to showcase the innovative talent and ideas that Hollywood hasn't discovered yet. What's up, man?
What's going on, Tim? It's good to be here, man. Happy early Christmas if I don't talk to you before.
Yes. Well, dude, welcome to the Christmas special. You are like the Christmas episode.
It's an honor. I'm thrilled to be here. We talked earlier, but internet happened. So, but
yeah. We actually
had a good conversation today.
Yeah, we sat down to record earlier, and then something happened with the internet, and it just couldn't work out. But I'm so thankful and happy that you were like down to record again and do this.
Yeah, no, like I just had.
I was very looking forward to our conversation.
Oh yeah, likewise for sure. We always have good conversations, Tim. Like we actually do. That's something to appreciate, man. Like we would have lengthy conversations before class. I miss that about school. We talked about that in our earlier recording.
Yeah.
The little things.
It's so, because I think just being able to have a conversation with someone, and like a real conversation with someone, not a surface level conversation, but a conversation that really matters and that might change your perspective or impact your day. You're not able to do that. At least for myself, you're not able to do that with everyone. So to have that, have that kind of camaraderie and understanding with someone, is really important, a really special thing. So,
and also,
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. It comes down to the unique perspective I think you and I share respectively.
Right.
It's interesting to see or to hear you talk about things with regard to, like, for example, your differences between your writer's process and mine. It's always very interesting to hear how people do things differently. And you've always just been very interesting. I think the key word though is memorable. You always know if you're having good conversations with somebody if you think about them after. That's always, usually the case. You and everybody from the Climb film set.
Yes.
But
Well, I really that it means a lot to me coming from you. I feel the same way whenever we have a conversation, especially certain conversations that we've had, not just like on the set of like the client, but in our classes,
yeah,
have I think back to those conversations. You always think back to conversations with other screenwriters and filmmakers who you bond with and you have an understanding with.
yeah,
Because that's like your we're all building ourselves up and rising together. Like we're each other's. We understand. In a way, we're
we all have
closer than our childhood friends because we get what like our purpose and like our aspiration. We
we have very
share
similar
that
goals.
exactly.
We have very similar goals, and we have a very particular shared interest. It's our this is our career.
Yeah.
So we both know that it's this isn't just like a friend you talk to about it. It's almost like a colleague at that point, like you said.
Mhm.
Yeah, and not being able to see those people at so big of groups in such a close proximity, like in a classroom. Remember the classroom we had feature development in was pretty tiny,
Mhm.
but it forced you next to each other. It really kind of I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this aloud, but like there were like groups in the classroom. Like our side of the class did not talk as much as the right side, so it made it more it made it more personal.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no,
It was
there
so
was
tiny.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, because everyone's different. Like even within
I
I
would
know we
say
like to
our area was a group. The front of our row was pretty talkative. We talked a lot.
yeah. Well, it just shows you that people like to categorize certain professions and certain like career goals,
Right.
certain people who choose to go down a certain path as they act like this or they're like this. And while there are commonalities obviously between writers, writers are there. I know writers who have so like the personality variance is
Oh yeah.
so ranges to an extreme. Like,
It's such a unique art form because we're all just the only thing technically we share is like we adhere to the same formula. Like we like
even
screenwriting.
even then,
Yeah,
that is
that
questionable.
can
But I
change.
get what
That
you're
can
saying.
change. Like we all adhere to the same, not the formatting. Like we have to use titles. That we have that, but everything after that is just style and punctuation. You feel me?
I do feel you. I do
Yeah,
feel
it's
you.
like so we're all so unique. It's so the writing is all like you could take any two screenwriting students at DePaul and you ask them to like, what is your dream screenplay that you would love to see get made the most? They're going to be two totally different screenplays. No matter how many different pairs of people you choose, seriously.
Mhm.
So and we're all so different. That's another thing. You don't get to hear about other people's scripts. You just get one. I had a recent class. I just had to check in on one person's script, but throughout the whole duration, I like being able to see everybody's as well.
Yeah. Well, I think what that comes down to is your writing is so connected to your personal experience and the relationships that fundamentally made you as a person. And that tends to not to govern, but it tends to guide you in what you want to focus on what you obsess over, especially in character traits and qualities. At least I find
Yeah.
that for me. Like I find that my characters are different, but they're all trying to fill a hole. They're trying to fill a similar void. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
with one character, and maybe it comes down to like isolation and the need to find one's purpose, you know,
Hmm.
because I for like Niobe, the web series that I just kind of finished up. Well, I'm not. I finished the writing process, but we're now in the pre-production process of it. And that the main character in that is a guy named Femi, and he's a very dark character. Well, I mean, I don't see him as a villain. I don't see him as a villain, but I think any audience member from the outside would see him as a villain, or at the very least, a bad guy. And he is a bad guy,
Like an
in many
anti-hero?
respects. I wouldn't even call him an anti-hero. I mean, because I wouldn't,
So like,
because I don't even think you could look at him as a hero.
so like that Lars von Trier movie with Matt Dillon. You know what I'm talking? The house that Jack built.
Oh,
Is it that bad?
he's not that bad. He's probably the second tier from that. I mean,
Yeah.
because he has a very warped sense of control. And you know what? That's it. That's it. Like, I feel like all of my characters, and I think this is true for many compelling characters that a lot of people write, but all of my characters are trying to fill this void where they have a lack of control in.
Yeah.
And that's what guides them to go on, say, the quote unquote the journey, or to go through these tasks or obstacles or whatever, because they want to get to a place where they have control. But then at the end, or at least close to the end, or maybe even like in the middle of the story, they realize that that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as having full control over the universe, over yourself even. I mean, you can get better at it, but it's
that is like
and that has to come from my experiences. I mean, there must be something. Maybe, I mean, and I think it can be true to say, maybe I really, for a long time, felt like I had no control. And I constantly try to find this need to have control, which is probably why I read so much books about the process of writing, because I want to be able to control myself and my ability to consistently write and perform. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent.
I agree. I think you touched on that central idea of like there's a void in your character's life that they need to, tend to. That is like the age-old idea, right? Like Joseph Campbell, he would definitely say like that's the hero's journey. Your character is at a state of disunity at the beginning of the story, and they go on an adventure to sort of, ameliorate that, and hopefully they have some sort of a good solution at the end.
Well, I mean, I guess that's just
it's sort of just true for every narrative, like, or most of the ones we see in Hollywood, like the classical Hollywood story.
Yeah.
The hero's
Well, I
journey.
mean, yeah. I mean, I think that it's tough because, I mean, do you ever feel like you even know why certain ideas go into your head and why they come out?
Well, all I can assume is, I mean, no, they sort of just bubble up to the surface, right, from your subconscious. I have no idea why. It's probably just like sometimes, most of the time, I'll just go like, "Oh, it's memory. I've seen this thing before, and I know what it means." But like ideas, like new ideas that are like combinations of things I already know. Like it's, I mean, it's just the creative. It's just the creativity of humanity, I guess. It's just, I don't know, complex thought. I guess that is what screenwriting is, right? Is to master it to the point where you can sort of guide it at your will and do it, consciously, instead of just like, you come up with ideas, but you have no idea how to string them together. That's a different thing. That's
Yeah.
sort of what we're all striving to be. Like that's my biggest problem with screenwriting is I try to be a perfectionist, or at least I'm a perfectionist to some extent. Like I spend so much time going over like the little details, like way too long. Just like seeing like is everything working to its fullest capacity. And it takes forever. It's just daunting. But I've been actually doing a lot better at that. How about you?
I feel that I'm getting better at it. I think I'm gradually getting
That's good.
more concretely said in that. Have you ever read the book by the writer Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic?
What is it called? Big
Big
Magic?
Magic.
I have not.
I've posted about it on my Instagram, and actually on the one episode of this podcast that I did just like by myself, I talked about an excerpt of this book. And one of the things that she really harkens in it is like this notion of when you're writing something and when you're trying to go at it, you should go at it with the mindset of not being a perfectionist, because she views perfectionism as like fear that's dressed in high heels. Like you're so
Yeah.
fearful that
Yeah.
it's going to be bad. So you just labor
Eventually you have
over
to
it
stop.
for forever.
Yeah.
What?
Eventually you have to stop.
Eventually you do have to stop. But what she said, which I really resonated with me, was she said that you have to come at it as a disciplined half-ass. So like you're incredibly disciplined at going, like in our case, going to the keyboard and writing. Like you're very disciplined in making sure that you have the courage to like actually do it. You need to be disciplined in that. But when you first write it, of course, it's not going to be amazing. Of course, you're going to need to go back to it. Of course, you're going to need to go over it a couple hundred times, whatever. But in that initial moment of like just writing down your idea, just be a disciplined half-ass. Write it down and be okay with the fact that the first time you write it, it's not great. You can always go back to it. It's not like you write it and then you never go back to it. But I think the perfectionism part of it keeps us. It can keep you like from not actually doing it, and that's the worst possible thing that can happen.
It does happen. It does
Happens
sometimes.
to me.
Sometimes it just takes up too much time, and it's more often than not. So it's a bad habit most of the time. But I think for certain important parts of a screenplay, it can be really beneficial to be like very careful, and therefore maybe perfectionist. Like characters, you cannot screw up characters. And
you can't screw up anything.
Yeah, realistically. But like if your screenplay doesn't have like a lot of great like set piece moments, you can do away with that if you have very good characters. Like if your screenplay is like, just like I know this movie actually got mixed reception from fans, but Killing Them Softly, remember the one with Brad Pitt?
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that movie looked really good, right? Like it looked pretty good, but like, I forgot where I was going with that, to be completely honest. But like, wait a minute, I just went on a complete tangent. Where was I going with that?
We were talking about perfectionism, and I agree. I mean, obviously, I don't want to give people the idea that what I'm saying is, or what Elizabeth Gilbert is saying, that don't like look at every word of your script and every idea that you presented thoroughly and to the best of your ability.
Right.
I'm just saying, don't let this idea of perfectionism be so daunting that it stops you from like doing the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember why I brought up that movie, because the movie is like, it's about like people robbing poker games with like a sawed-off shotgun in like the suburb, or it's like in like the ghetto. It's a very, very simple movie, but the characters, the dialogue exchanges are just so good. It works. Like you can get away with a lot if you just nail dialogue and just like the typical narrative poetry. Like something like Lady Bird, for example. The movie's it's a story. It's like a novel. Like a girl at a Catholic high school. She's like very eccentric.
Mm.
Nothing like blockbustery about it. but it's a great movie. So it's like you just have to get really good at making movies like that, I think. If you want to be like a really good screenwriter, you need to be able to write something like, oh man, Greta Gerwig is so good, and so is Noah Baumbach.
Right. I mean, well, that's a great point in that really to like test yourself, write something that doesn't have any pizzazz in it. Write just a simple story that's just like either a straight drama or a straight comedy,
Yeah,
but that the character is so intriguing that you forget that there's no like action set piece or horror elements or any of those genre tropes that are used to keep an audience engaged.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
a very
no,
good exercise, I think.
100%. Um, yeah, sometimes it's a little hard though, because I like to have fun.
Right.
Like I like to write stuff that's fun to write. If it's fun to write, it in theory should be fun to watch, right? I don't know.
Well, I think you should always be. I mean, if you're writing something and you're not having the best time of your life doing it, you should stop that.
Yeah,
You should
probably.
stop it immediately, and not like maybe don't throw away the story, but like really reassess like why am I not enjoying this? Writing
Yeah,
should be an amazing time.
it should be. I mean, it's really
I
personal if you think about it.
Yeah, I don't like this whole notion of like because I mean I feel like people really buy into this whole thing of like the tormented writer or the tormented artist. Like you can only write well if you are suffering through it. I don't subscribe to that. I used to. I used to like really buy into that, and I'm just like now having dealt with that, I'm just like that's like one of
Suffering
the
like
worst things.
emotionally.
Like what? Yeah, well, like what I mean is like you'll see writers who like they're so hard on themselves and they're so like I really do think that there are a lot of artists out there who buy into the idea that if I'm not miserable or if I don't have a sad existence as I'm making my art, then my art's not going to have that edge. Then my art's
Mm.
not going to be as good as it could be. Like if I was a happier person and I took better care of myself emotionally, then my art would suffer. I really think that a lot of artists buy into that because I
I
bought I
I
bought into that.
You did? I never have.
Well, that's
I
great.
like Do you think a guy like Taika Waititi is like depressed?
I don't think so.
No, like, and look
I
at him.
don't.
Look at what he's making. He's making stuff that's critical and really substantive, but it's fun. There are
Yep.
tons of other directors like that. Like, you know, like, I mean, like, you can have like personal trauma, but your writing should draw from that. It really should, because otherwise it's gonna be weak. I feel
Right.
like if you're because it's like in baseball, they tell you if you're pitching, don't aim the ball, just throw it.
Yeah.
Don't aim it. So if you're trying to be good, you're never going to be. You kind of just need to read enough screenplays to the point where you know what the best version of your plot points would sound like and look like as well, obviously. But it's honestly a lot more fundamental than I thought it would be. Like I thought this I mean, at least at this stage, it feels like that because I'm learning so much in such a short period of time. It feels like it's like, wow, there's actually a lot more like fundamentals to this than I thought. I thought it was just gonna be like, I write like a good story and like maybe, maybe the movie gets made. It's like, no, there's a lot more to this, especially like with formatting and style and all that. Like it's a lot to take in, but like you have to do it. So it's like if you aren't constantly doing it, you're not going to get better at it.
You mean constantly reading, like screenplays?
Reading and writing, but I meant writing primarily. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's something I'd like to pick your brain on. How do you feel about reading screenplays? Like I try to do it as much as I can.
Well, you know what? It was great because I was forced to read screenplays.
Yeah.
With the kind of classes that I take and the internship that I took just this last like couple months, I read a lot of screenplays. I read a lot of stuff, and it's interesting because no, I mean, I think you should be. I mean, if you're a screenwriter, you should be reading screenplays. You should be. You should. It's like I was watching this interview, and this guy basically he explained it in the most like comprehensive way possible. He was just like, "Well, think about this. If you want to learn how to compose music, you have to look at music. Like you have to look at music on the page and know how to write that and like know how to write the notes so that a
Yeah.
musician can look at it and play it.
Yeah, it's a language.
With a screenplay, it's the same thing. You need to
Exactly.
know what a screenplay, how it should flow, how it should be formatted, and like what your style is. But
Exactly.
also understand just like the fundamentals in the format so that an actor or a director can take your screenplay. Say if you don't want to direct it, if you just want to be the writer and give it away, they can take that and they'll know what to do with it. Of course, the actor and the director will infuse their own style as a musician infuses their own sensibilities into a written piece of music.
Yes.
But
It's very similar.
it's literally the same thing. You're doing the same, it's the same kind of
Like the
process.
fundamentals are identical. It's an art form. It's an art form, and screenwriting is the language.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. Everything there you said was golden. Like, and that's sort of what I was trying to say when like I was surprised there's a lot more fundamentals to this. It's I thought there would be a lot more room for error, like there isn't. You have to be it's very precise. And if you think about, I mean, I just assume like uh like writing books has been the same as long as it's been around, as long as books have been around. Like you need to be really precise in order to get published or like, bigger name publishers. Like, oh my God. And like I actually just got an internship a few days ago. So
Congratulations, man.
thank you. It's gonna be I needed something to do on the side, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be something similar to what you said you did. Just, reading a lot of scripts, the some projects, other stuff, you know, meetings, whatnot. I'm excited. Because I love reading screenplays and I love writing about them because it forces me like that the short assignment format of it. It forces me to be succinct, and I like that.
Yeah.
Screenwriting is a lot different than writing coverage, but coverage is almost like training because it's almost like you're writing a report, like a mini report.
Yeah. It's coverage is it's like your book report for a screenplay.
Yeah,
Like, how did you well it's even more it's much more analytical than like a book report. It's like you're relaying to other people what worked, what didn't work, why doesn't it work?
yeah,
Which, if you can explain why a script doesn't work, then you're so ahead of the game of like knowing how to make your work better.
yes. I was actually looking for a time to say that myself. I 100% agree. That's something I say to a lot of people. I, yeah, that's like a gold standard. Like that's like my modus operandi. If you can't teach somebody how to screenwrite, you don't know how to do it.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
mean,
what you just said. So like I love reading other people's scripts because I like seeing where other people are at in their progress. And then like, I like look it's hard to look at your screenplay from that outside point of view. It's hard to really critique. Like thankfully I tend to know when like something is bad. Like it's not like I'm not blind, but like there are some moments, where it's like, but I
I
want to
mean,
change this.
yeah, I got blind spots. I think. I mean, not with
Everybody does.
everyone does, and that's why you have people you trust read it and like get their input on it. I think for me, my blind spots tend to be plot stuff
Yeah.
because I'd like to I would love to hear like where you stand on this because I think there are two types of modes of like how a screenwriter dives into a story. And I think the one way you enter into a story is through your characters, and the other way is through your world or plot.
Yeah.
Now, for myself, I always start with the character. For me, once I figure out the character, then all I do then is just, okay, I have this character that I'm really obsessed with. What world would best challenge that character? What set of circumstances would best challenge the character given these traits about them?
I would say that one is a lot more rare for me personally. Coming up with a character first,
Mhm.
that's a lot more rare. I usually come up with an idea. So I guess that would be world and
Yes.
plot.
Yes. Well, that's the other one. I mean, for me, well, not for me, but I know Jimmy is like that. Like when I
Yeah,
talk
that's
to
how I am.
Jimmy, and honestly, that's why it's honestly me and Jimmy wanted to think like we wanted to like write something together. We wanted to like, you know, sit down and try to think of a story. It was so hard to brainstorm because we were literally coming at it. Like we were both trying to enter into our ideas and enter into the story in like the opposite reverse way, which there's nothing wrong with either way. But I think
No,
it's hard when two writers are like, because I was just asking questions of like, okay, who is this character? What do they think? Like, what do they believe in? Like, what's their like defining traits? Like, I need to like see them and like figure out like what are
yeah,
they? What
yeah.
is that?
I think we touched on this right at the tail end of our last session. It there's yeah there are I think there's a lot of ways you can probably approach a screenplay. Like I know have you ever seen the I've never tried I actually tried it once, but it was on a screenplay I had already written, so I just converted it into note cards. Have you ever tried note cards for a screenplay or like beat
I
sheets?
no, honestly.
Yeah, I don't do that either. So I think there's two different ways you can go into the actual writing process there as well. You can just sort of wing it, or you can just sort of or you can plan more. I I I feel like planning more would be good. That's why I tried to do it, but
Well,
I don't really.
well
It's
that
hard.
well
It's a lot of
that
writing.
well that's I mean that's a different discussion because
Yeah. That's
um
what I was saying though. There's so many different ways you can approach screenwriting, and in every different facet there's different ways. It's so multi-layered. Like my brother, he barely even he barely even plans. He just starts writing and he reads a lot of like source material. And he
well
like it's like it, but like I know people who plan for weeks. They have to.
yeah no well now we're kind of talking about processes, so I'll well, I guess here's my quote unquote
Yeah.
process. Because I think obviously it changes a little bit with every new script, but because I write a lot more television than I do features. Honestly, I pretty much exclusively now write television, like television pilots, television episodes, stuff. Um, and what I tend to do is I think about it for a very long time. I don't write anything down initially. I just think about it.
Yeah.
I think about the character. And then once I think about the character, then I think about what kind of world slash plot would, you know,
Hmm.
challenge this character and really force them to grow. Um, and then what I do is I do, and this is what all television writers really do. I make a beat sheet. I always make a preliminary beat sheet, like like I'll I'll just write down, and anyone who knows who writes for television knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. It's a beat sheet. It's like
Yeah.
I'm putting down a sequence of like vague moments or vague ideas of like in a like chronological order of like how this episode should go down. Like what are the points that oh, are you echoing?
A little bit.
I you sound fine from my end.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
You don't hear that in the background?
No.
Sorry. I wanted to notify you quietly at least. But yeah, I was following along with what you're saying.
No, yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the beat sheet is fundamental,
Yeah,
but
did we take TV writing together? I don't think we did. We had a
we
couple
did
other
not.
classes. Yeah, they beat sheets are the standard, 100%. That is standard.
But then once I do the beat sheet, and then sometimes I'll do other stuff. Like sometimes I'll look at pictures and like reflect on it and write like my reflections on the ideas a little bit and like write some other notes. But then once that's done, I basically just start writing, and I always have the beat sheet in mind, but it's kind of like I'm on a horse. This is gonna sound trippy, but it's almost like I'm on a horse, and I have like obviously because I have the beat sheet, I have an idea of like where we're going and what needs to be in here. But I do let the horse, which is like kind of like my mind or like my whatever ideas or other things pop into my head, sort of lead me in other directions. And then other ideas can come into the story as it's happening. So I don't live and die by the beach. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of other people are the same way about it. But so
yeah, and
I
then
teeter that line of like knowing everything and also being like, I'm just gonna walk in here and
yeah,
go back and forth.
yeah. So going back to the broader perspective, there's people who go world and you said world and plot and then character and theme. What were the two?
Well, for me, what I tend to notice is there are people who start with the character, and then there's other people who start with the plot and the world. Obviously,
Yeah,
both kinds of writers are going to get to. I mean, the world and plot writers eventually going to get to character, and the character person who focuses on character is eventually going to get to the world and plot stuff. But it's how they enter into the story. It's how they begin the idea. Is what I would say.
yeah. I actually don't know where where I would fall in with that. I feel like I just sort of start on both at the same time and I give each their individual contributions whenever I write, you know. I'm thinking about both equally, I would say. I
Like
don't
at the
really
beginning, at the start, you're always you're basically always going in tandem from the
yeah, like
beginning.
I have like things I'm always checking, like questions that I have to answer for a scene. I'll plan out the scenes beforehand. Granted, each draft those scenes are completely different because I'll scrap entire scenes. This
Yeah.
happens when you're writing.
Mhm.
But I'll try like my best. But I like you said, I don't. If I forget to do it, it's not the end of the world. I'm at the point where I can like sort of just know what boxes I need to hit in on the actual page.
Yeah. If you've at least thought of a general roadmap, if
As
you
long as
have
you're writing,
experience, you can just go.
exactly.
I think I feel. So like what is your process? Because I've never really like asked you like what is like dead ass your
I feel yeah, no,
whole
I feel bad
process.
because it's the spectacle, the finale, if you will, and I have the most boring writing process ever.
I
I
don't think that that's possible.
I literally just the only interesting thing I do is other than drinking my coffee black, some people I've like had like a couple of people go like, "Really?" And I'm like, "That's not that's not common." Like I
Bro,
thought that
I always drink. I don't put sugar or
yeah,
something
like I'm like,
involved.
"Okay," but like that
That's not a weird thing.
yeah, no. So it's like other than that, that doesn't even count. I turn myself away from my desk and I put my legs up on my bed. If I'm at my desk, it tempts me to look at other things for some reason. Like I get distracted
Hmm.
more at my desk. I for some reason.
Wow, that's
I don't
interesting.
I don't know why. I think it's because my desk has my mouse and my like extension keyboard on it. Like I have like for like video games basically if I'm trying to procrastinate. It makes it like I feel like here I'm like more locked in. If I'm more relaxed, like in a more chill position, it helps me write better. Like if I'm at my desk, it feels like I'm going to work in a weird way. I think that's at least how subconsciously I can defend it the best. I don't know why I do it.
Yes, you just
I
brought
don't
up a. Sorry,
yeah. No,
no, I don't want to
yeah.
cut you off.
I was just gonna say I know Greta Gerwig. actually says like she writes in her bed under her blankets with the lights off. I think like I know she writes in the dark in her room. But I think I do it in bed because like it kind of like simulates being in a movie theater a little bit,
Mm,
shutting the lights off in your room and doing it.
okay.
But it's like that's how some people. But that like I've tried it and it helps so much, but like it's so the optics of it. It literally is like you're just sitting in a dark room writing. Is that what you do? Like that's what people ask me I do if I do whenever I tell them I'm a screenwriter. Like, oh, so you write in the dark all day? It's like, yeah. If I started doing that, even if it helped, it just I would have to live with that. It's an evolution.
I'll say this: I don't write in the dark.
You don't.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I find really interesting about that. I'll just say that I have to write at a desk because if I'm in my bed, I'm gonna get distracted. I feel like
Complete
that for
opposite.
me. I feel like I'll feel a little too comfortable. Um, and I'll say this: I don't write in the dark, but I love writing late at night.
Yeah,
I love it being really dark and quiet outside and writing.
I love it when it rains. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's very nice, very peaceful. But in theory, I don't know why it is that I think it like yeah. I think for me, it's like it helps me get immersed in on like the screen. It shuts out all like everything, all the noise going on in my periphery. I think, and
Yeah,
like kind of like a movie does. But
I can get that.
when
I
I'm
can
doing homework,
understand that.
I like to listen to music. I can't really listen to music. I'll listen to music before I write, or like while I'm like looking for inspiration, but never while I'm actually writing. When I'm writing, I try to
The
like
exact same way with that.
yeah, I try to like
I can't. I'll be too distracted by the actual artistry of the music.
yeah, you're just
I can
gonna
only listen
replicate.
to like straight like I sometimes listen to Dvorak. Like there's a string serenade that I like. If
Yeah,
that's in the background and really like soft, that
sometimes it can help.
sometimes
Yeah,
works.
yeah. I sometimes it can work. I feel like most of the times though, like for especially for like dialogue writing, or if you're just trying to edit, I don't think so. Or especially if you're in a first draft, like you want to make sure you're doing as best on your first draft as possible, right? So you don't have to edit as much. First draft's terrible. That's not good. I don't like having bad first drafts, but it happens. It happens more often than not.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
writing.
it's. I think we have to be specific on what we constitute as bad in that sense. Like when we say bad, do we mean that just the like say your formatting isn't there yet and like there's like your word choice isn't there yet, or do we mean like because for me a terrible first draft would be like your scenes don't resonate at all.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like,
Like
if you're not putting any thought into it,
yeah,
if you're
like
not
at
being
that point
evocative,
don't what are you doing?
you have to try. You can't just be evocative. Like, no one is just Shakespeare. Shakespeare wasn't just evocative because he could be. Like, he applied him. Like, it took him so long to write those things. I
Yeah.
assure you, every creative is the same way. It's like, but you need to be thoughtful. Like, so I guess like a really bad draft for me would be like, I guess I'm just not giving the project the respect and the time it needs. That's what I would say
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
bad first draft is. You can just tell, like, phoning it in. Like, you're just getting page count in. Like, you're just spamming the keys. You're filling it with
Right.
fluff. You're not,
You
there's no substance. There's no substance. It's
yeah.
just like rudiment. It's just like words on paper. It's just like the surface level. You haven't gone any deeper with it. I like to go deep with projects, but ever so often. I don't like to write. Though I need to start producing more stuff because I only have a couple screenplays. It's like I need to have more, obviously. So a
Well,
couple screenplays that I feel good about.
yeah, but I get what you mean. It's you can tell when you're reading something where the person just wanted the accomplishment of writing a screenplay, and that was all that mattered.
Oh yeah,
That it was
and then
just
there's
like,
and then
yeah,
there's the question if they're just bad Or maybe there's always a possibility. Maybe they're just bad. Because I've had that happen before. Remember that screenplay, Tim, Wally's Wonderland?
I do
I
remember
Here's
that
the thing.
screenplay.
I thought that was just the worst thing ever, right? I thought that was an abomination, but there were a couple people in class who were like, "Yeah, I think it's really subversive. It's like it's really tongue in cheek." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "What?" Like,
It's
no, it was
it's
terrible.
weird. I always am astonished at how people interpret things, like how where their mind goes when they take something in like that.
Exactly.
Um,
Like, yeah, like there was so many times in that class where I just like I had a completely almost almost like way out of left field opinion. Like, remember that screenplay that was supposed to have Tom Hanks in it, where it's like the apocalypse screenplay? There's the guy and the dog,
yeah, it
robot.
was okay.
I passed on it. Matt Quinn and like half the class did it. I think most of the class. I was like one of a few people who passed on it. So I just thought it was boring and it was really freaking long. Like the action description was so extensive. Like I just didn't think there was a lot to it. It could have been it was salvageable, but I didn't think like I mean the only reason is because it had Tom Hanks on it, I feel like. Anyway, like there was there
Yeah.
I had there that was like the worst of it. Most of the time I was pretty in line. Like I feel like the whole class actually was well actually yeah, like we had a pretty good diverse opinion or diversity of opinion. I like that.
Mhm. I think I considered that piece just because I thought that the writer was competent, and
That was true.
I thought that there was an audience for it. Personally, I kind of agree with you. I thought it was boring. I think most of those dystopian movies where it's like after an apocalypse and they're trying to like the protagonist is trying to like figure out how to
Yeah.
like exist in this world. I find
People
most
will
of
see
those
it.
movies incredibly boring. They're
Yeah.
just not my cup of tea, but I could see
Like the people who like The Road, people who
yeah,
like
even I Am Legend,
I
like
Am
movies
Legend.
like
I was just
that.
about to say I Am Legend, Book of Eli.
Yeah, like those
But
movies,
like
like they're fine. Like they're
it's like
okay.
I actually really like Book of Eli, oddly enough. I just really enjoy I thought that movie was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was like a really cool movie. It wasn't great, but it was cool. I loved the freaking set design. The production was
Yeah,
so good. And
yeah,
it was like it was interesting. I think it had a decent plot twist, but it was I mean, I understand like it was pretty middle brow. Yeah, if you're middle,
yeah,
it was pretty.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, taste is such a subjective thing.
We all have those movies where it's like the common opinion is not the one we share.
Yeah,
Like
no, I mean, yeah. We always
half the
have.
movies
There's
on the
always a
wall.
variance with something.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just like our. There's something about our personalities that make us like certain movies that we know are not that great, but we just can't help but like them.
yeah. I have that with some of the really bad Adam Sandler comedies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Billy Madison. That movie just it makes me laugh so much. And like
Well, Billy
I
Madison's pretty funny. I
I mean,
think that that's not
I
that
think
bad.
All of Adam Sandler's movies were pretty funny up until a point. Like once he started doing like the Jack and Jill.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was like the oh god, what was the other one? Zohan. Like that was not a good era. Just not at all.
I think Zohan's pretty funny, actually. I actually
I yeah, but then like you know, I don't know. Like people like Twilight, for Christ's sake.
I mean, yeah,
People like the
Twilight
Transformers
is.
movies. Think about like people like what are some what's some like conventional wisdom at DePaul you've taken like issue with? Because they do have certain thoughts about certain parts of film that I feel like sometimes I just completely disagree with. Like there's certain movies that they just they consider to be like filth, and I'm like, really? Like, there's a really bad. They like to dunk on like David Fincher a lot of all people, like the professors and stuff.
Who?
Like David
Who's trying
Fincher.
to dunk on David Fincher?
I don't want to name names, but the
Oh
David
no,
Fincher.
name the names, John.
No,
I'm
I'm a
joking. I'm
good
joking.
student.
No.
David Fincher. I'm sure you've heard someone. Uh,
I've never heard that.
no,
I've never
Chris.
heard
You
someone.
have to have heard someone talk about Christopher Nolan, though.
I have heard that. I
Yeah, like
have.
there are a lot of people at DePaul who don't like Christopher Nolan. It's like I get it. His stuff is very middle of the road, like middle brow action movie, Hollywood boom explosion. But at least he tries to be authentic about it. He like his
He is very thoughtful about how he presents themes and how
exactly
he
like
presents
he's very
time, especially.
it's a very intelligent middle brow movie. So it's like that is that's what we talk about when we say that the Hollywood golden age and how it was so restrictive with the studios, but how it almost bred like super auteurs who were like so good at film that they could make great movies despite how much little creative impact they had. Like Ford, for example, John Ford. Like he was an auteur in one of the most restrictive Hollywoods or periods of time in Hollywood ever. I feel like Christopher Nolan he's making movies like that. Like they toe the line. I get it. They're blockbusters at the end of the day, but he's very thoughtful with it. Like there's a reason why whenever he drops a new movie, it's an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, and then you have like other directors who are like that. Like Tarantino, I would say is like that. Scorsese. Scorsese is way more. He's a little bit more well respected though. I feel like because he's just so prolific.
He's his own thing.
He's a
I
genius.
don't I don't think there's any the way that he addresses his films or the subject matter in them with such a authenticity and like he spares no expense at giving you exactly what he wants. And Tarantino, I would say, is the same way, and a lot of directors are the same way. Like
There's
very
a lot of
respected
other
directors.
directors. Denis Villeneuve. Like
Yes.
people are gonna go see Dune.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like and that but he's been around for a while, like since oh god, like I think the first movie I saw of his was in 2013 when I saw Prisoners. I think that movie should have gotten nominated for a bunch of Oscars. That's one of my favorite movies of all
Prisoners is a
time.
great film.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably my second favorite movie of all time. That movie destroyed me. That movie like there's you ever like we have like those movies that we regard as like the special ones that like the way I like to describe it is that like it crashed my operating system and it forced me to reboot. Hereditary did
Yeah.
that.
Well, that is the I think that's the highest compliment that you can pay a film, or
Yeah,
that's the most prolific impact, and I think that's what we as screenwriters and filmmakers are all striving for. Is
exactly.
can a film produce such an emotional response in another human being that we have never met before, and to such an extent create a paradigm shift
Yeah, like
within them?
some sort of get at least get an idea in their head that sticks with them for a while. Hereditary
Uh-huh.
did that really recently. The Shining, I really loved. The Shining was actually came really close. Like I think that movie is amazing. It's a masterpiece. But like before that, Prisoners destroyed me. Even harder than Hereditary. That
How
movie stunned me
how
because it's
did
so
those
brutal.
movies? How did I'm sorry, but how did those movies shift you? Like, well, how did they
Pri-
like? How did
Prisoners
they change
was
you?
Prisoners was so it was so like captivating. It was so like alluring. Like I was arrested by it. I couldn't look
Tested by
away,
it. Yeah.
but it was really gruesome. It's very visceral. So it's like it's almost like shocking you. It's like consistently putting you in a state of shock throughout the entire run through. Just it's just I had a slow drip every however many minutes when something crazy happens, but it felt like every scene in that movie there was like a drip. I was like, holy crap, that's shocked me. It was just the best plot And oh my God, Roger Deakins' cinematography. That movie is a painting. That movie
Yeah.
is a painting. The acting is tremendous. The music from Johan Johansson, God bless him. The late Johan Johansson, he also did Arrival, I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh.
Like every part of that movie is so authentic to the movie. Like what you're talking about with precision, you know? Like it's so yeah, it's so thoughtful. It's evocative. That movie
Is your
destroyed me.
worldview changed after that
Yeah,
movie?
Hereditary, I was just really impressed with how with so little, that movie really stuck with me. Like,
Yeah.
it kinda haunts you. It real like, in the way that, like, you could argue a traditional horror movie is supposed to, like, you're freaked out a little bit at night. But, like, no, that movie that there's no monster in that movie. The monster is literally just the off screen. What's happening off screen is the villain in that movie. You have the so it's like it makes you feel like you're, like, watching some like a car, like, tumble down a hill. You're just watching something spiral out of control. Everything's gonna go to shit. It was just so effective at soliciting or eliciting that specific feeling. Like, it really makes you feel like, oh, because the whole point of the film, that's what I think the imagery. If you've seen Hereditary,
Oh yeah.
the doll houses. That's what I think that's what those mean, right? They're like it's the force, like the spirit, like the presence, whatever's haunting them, the cult looking in on them, like from their point of view, like controlling them. Like I think the way Ari Aster communicates that through the plot and the theme and just especially the off screen, like I watched a whole video about like how there's just like when things happen in the screenplay, like oh there's the body upstairs, for example. Before that, you can hear like when they come in, like in an earlier scene, they come into the house, you hear like people running upstairs in the house. Like it's just there's so much thought put into it. That's what I'm saying.
You
It's
do?
so yeah,
I
like
don't think I've watched that film 3 times. I don't
yeah,
think I've
like
ever noticed that.
there's a part yeah, oh man. There's like the scene before they find the body in the attic. She comes in and she hears and she Tony Collette, she like goes like that, like she hears something and you hear like it's very quiet. That's why you can miss it. Because it could just be misinterpreted as like them walking.
Right.
You feel me? So it's like it's very subtle, but Tony Collette, she gives like one of those like but it's like and obviously like the cult the whole movie is about how like the cult is like influencing them without them knowing. When she goes to uh Joni's house
Yeah.
and it lets you see the cult stuff, but
Hmm.
Tony it's just honestly like Ari Aster is like the new Hitchcock. Him and Jordan Peele, they're so good at that. They're so good at suspense. And oh, yeah, so Hereditary stunned me in the way that like seeing Psycho for the first time probably would have stunned like a young and upcoming writer. I feel like that's what Hereditary was for like our generation, or as close as I've seen.
Yeah. Well, Hereditary is beautiful because it's not in many ways you could take away all the horror elements and it would still work.
Yeah,
It would still work as like a family drama. Like at the heart of it, it's a
it's
family
haunting.
drama about grief and about a family losing love for each other.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's why it prompts this like paradigm shift.
I'm
It
glad you
forces
touched
you to
on it. Yeah,
reflect. Yeah, it forces you to reflect upon how you're communicating with the people that you love. And it scares you because it like the film shows you that there always can be this like monster or this thing that's coming after you. And if you lose your humanity and your love for the people that you care for, that thing that's coming after you will get you and will tear it all apart.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was another reason why the movie struck me so well. You just hit it out of the park. Is how relatable it is. How it's so believable. It's just a family drama, but with some added, seances and what have you.
Well, there's some really fucked up shit added to it, but like if you
Yeah,
took it
but
all
like
away,
it's
it
all
still would work.
believable. It's all believable too, though. That's what struck me. It's just a family, and they're the the I watched a video, and they talked about how that actually happened. The Hereditary may have been inspired by real events. There was a case, I think it was Georgia, where two guys were driving home drunk from a bar, and the buddy in the back seat was so drunk he stuck himself out the window to piss because he was drunk, and he got his
Uh,
head taken off by a street light, by a
ooh,
pole. And
yeah.
the other guy was driving drunk, so he didn't even know the dude got, decapitated until the next day, and they found his head on the highway. That actually, so
Wow.
that happened. That's sort of the reason why Hereditary struck me so much. Is like, this happened. Why couldn't the rest? I don't know. It did it sold me. That movie sold me really well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
As crazy as it gets, you don't you've always the what do you call it? The illusion, like, or I mean the suspension of disbelief. You never feel that. Like that never goes away. Like
yeah,
you're always you feel so well, it's just like what we've been saying. You feel like this is really happening, even though there's no way it could be happening. And that's what great horror films do. You're watching it and you completely forget that this is like all set up and fabricated. You're just like, oh no, this is like happening to this family. This family is actually being torn apart by this thing, and it seems so
yeah,
real, but yet it can't be real. This can't be real. This couldn't have never have happened in any universe or whatever. And
yeah. No, I think that's to make a movie like that is what we all should aspire to do, and to actually pull that off requires a lot of thought.
it does. It
That's
does.
so I just yeah. How do
I
you do
mean,
that? It requires a lot of time.
well, you were mentioning that, like, there's a lot of things that DePaul professors say that you don't agree with, and I feel the same way. But one thing that Matt Quinn did say during our class was like, "Yeah, screenwriting's really hard. It's a really hard thing, and you shouldn't even do it if this isn't like if it's not like everything to you." I don't think that someone can pick this up just as a casual passion and have fun with it because it requires so much out of you.
That's his opinion. You
I-
disagree?
no, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, I'm like, I agree with that 100%. It is way too hard.
Way too hard.
Like, and yeah, it's like any profession, honestly. Like, if you're not trying to be the best out of everybody, shooting for the stars and hitting the moon, as they say. If you're trying to beat everybody, eventually you'll settle at being pretty good. But why not? Why even do it if that's not what you're doing it for? It takes so much time. Do it. Do
Right.
something else. Do something else. Go to the gym. Like, screenwriting, it's weird because you do have like an overabundance of novices and a really tiny concentration of like wizards, like your David Mammoths and your Quentin Tarantino's and your Bong Joon-ho's, like these guys who are just like savants. They're like geniuses. I like I do think I vary a little bit because like I think that's everything. That's the proverbial Pareto distribution. That's true in solar system. Um, there's a tiny concentration of stars that are just so much bigger than the 90% that are just like astronomically larger, like 500 times bigger. There's like a few of them at the top. This is the same thing. We see this in everything. there's a couple basketball players who are just so much better than everybody else. LeBron, Steph Curry, there's this debate there, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there's so many good there's some, like, Aaron Sorkin, Soderbergh, Tarantino. I said all these guys, like the best writers. Like, these guys, they put in the bare minimum and then some. But like, most people don't even put in the bare minimum. So it's like,
Well, yeah.
think about think about that before you take up a hobby. It's like, there's so few good screenwriters as it is. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's a good commitment. I would still recommend people do it though. Like, it's very, you learn about yourself when writing. But I will say, like, it if you're not planning on taking it up seriously, like, maybe do it. Just write one or two. Don't, like, do it consistently. If at that point, just keep a journal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Forgot what I was going to say. I think because for me, I write poetry sometimes, and I write
Yeah,
short stories sometimes. I don't think I would ever publish any of it, but I like doing it.
yeah,
So on that level, I wouldn't discourage someone from writing a screenplay if they like just wanted to like have fun and they didn't care what the end result was.
right.
I wouldn't say no, but I think it's impossible to just start writing a screenplay and just believe that haphazardly it's just going to become this amazing thing unless you're willing to study profusely and to incrementally improve profusely.
Yeah,
Like you have to like dedicate. It's like I don't want to say it's like a religion, but it's a calling that requires constant self analyzation, requires constant practice, requires constant thinking and thoughtfulness, that if unless you're obsessed, it's not going to be worth it. Unless you're
yeah,
thoroughly
and
obsessed.
I totally agree. It's like, you can't spread your. I'm of the mindset. Maybe I feel like you might be as well. That time is money. I'm always checking the time. Time is the most important thing to us, I think. Period.
It's
And
weird because I agree with you, but also time is an illusion.
it's
and
true, but like
and
true, but
time
like,
like
in you
well,
can,
the way that you're talking about, I
yeah,
completely agree.
you can translate that into any phrasing. I guess
Right.
just say the best, at what is the phrase? Play like you're even if you're up, play like you're down in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, you always have to be pretending like you're trying to outwork everybody. You always have to put in, like what I just said. Um, so it's like, if and screenwriting is one of those that requires so much time. It's like, the amount of time it's going to take up in your schedule, it's just not going to be value. It's not going to be time well spent enough. Like, obviously do whatever the hell you want, but like, I think screenwriting it's so personal that, like, to do it like on the side is probably just bears no value, in my opinion. Like, it's so much better, like, as a profession. I think, honestly, most art forms like that are like, but like, then again, it's like, you could make the case about photography, but I've always wanted to take up photography on the side. So my own argument here could be used against me. So it's like, that's why I say, like, if one of my friends is always like, yeah, I've always wanted to write a movie, I'm like, I'll help you. Let's do it together. So I'm always welcoming new people into the craft, but like, I do agree. It's like, at a certain point, you need to choose whether or not you want to do it professionally or just like for fun.
Yeah. Well, another thing about like, say, if you're a filmmaker and you want to take up photography as a hobby, that's just going to make your films better.
Yeah,
So I do think that
it's
you
different.
know it's different. Let me ask you this: do you ever meditate on death?
On meditate on what?
Death, like dying.
Oh, the process. I'm not that troubled by it, so I don't feel the need to. I mean, I recognize it, but no, not actively. Should I be doing that?
Well, I I don't know if you should. I mean, so I sometimes I just think that meditating on death helps me push me to do as much as I can while I'm alive. That's the only thing that I think meditating on death
I can see that.
helps with. It like makes you want to live.
Like meditating as like a process, like setting aside time to do it, or like just like reflecting on it,
Well,
being
yeah,
like,
meditating. I don't mean like you necessarily have to like sit down and like close your
yeah,
eyes and
no,
do
like
a formal
yeah,
meditation, but I mean just like you think about it and you go back to it. Like,
yeah, I'm
oh, I could
constantly,
die
yeah, I
today.
would definitely say, then yeah, sorry, I misunderstood you. 100%. Like I'm always reflecting on the bigger ideas like that. Like I'm very into the philosophy of the afterlife and the meaning of life in the present, or the only life we have for those who don't believe in an afterlife. Like all that stuff fascinates me. Yeah, I I would say like, yeah, but I would say overall like I'm I'm pretty cool. Like if anything, it's just a different way to motivate you to use your time better. Being afraid
Mhm.
of death. I mean, honestly, yeah, that could be what's motivating me to believe time is money. It's like,
Right.
because it's like I don't have infinite time. I need to use it wisely. It's the same root principle, I think.
All right. And
I
even
so I would agree.
reflecting on death doesn't even mean you're afraid of it. It just means that you acknowledge that your life is finite and that you have to,
Yeah,
I guess, get to it then.
I that's why I love the Shawshank Redemption. That has that infamous line in there: "Get busy living or get busy dying."
Or get busy dying.
That's in my Instagram bio, man. That's my mantra. Get busy living or get busy dying. Tomorrow can't wait, bro. The correct it's always the right time to do the right thing. Just
Yeah.
freaking just throw yourself at the wall. I've got a job, an internship, and we're starting school soon. Like, just get yourself busy.
Yeah.
You'll feel so much better than if you're just wasting away playing video games or writing like junk just to say, "Oh, well, I write every day." It's like, I don't know. You gotta get some routine.
I would,
You have to be
yeah.
building towards something.
I would rather write most days of the week, but have it be great, impactful sessions than write every day and have it just be okay.
Yeah, I'll set aside like a couple days a week. I'll do it for like 5 hours instead of doing it like an hour a day.
Mhm.
So I make an event out of it. I like that better because it's planned and you have time to reflect between it. I
Yeah.
don't think writing should be routine, because I think if you do that, then you lose the personal. It's very easy to lose the personal side of writing, because at that point you're just doing it. It's like manufacturing. You're like doing it for quota. Like I have to do it every day. You never stop. Sometimes you need to stop and let life happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and just to kind of wrap up, because I know you need to get heading out soon.
Yeah,
Honestly, I feel like we could talk for hours, like no joke.
seriously,
But,
I'm telling you, dude. Thank you
but
for having me on again. I'll come back
yeah,
whenever. Let me know.
but I
We always
think
have great combos.
we always do. Um, I think to like end this, I guess I'll say it's like just going off what you just said, like writing I feel like the writer has to be almost in love with life and gaining new experiences as much as they are in actually writing.
Yes. Yeah. Healthy body, healthy mind, right?
Well,
You have to
your
treat
experiences
everything.
are gonna shape what you write.
Yeah, like you need to be, if you're not a happy person, if you aren't at least trying to become better and shift yourself in a positive direction, you're never going to be able to write probably in the first place, or your writing will suck.
Mhm.
It's unfortunately, but it's kind of true.
It is. It is true.
That's why I love working out before I write, because working out always like puts it helps me get in a flow state better.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'll do like cardio. I'll hit the track and I'll go home and crack my laptop open and just write until I like literally am falling asleep.
Yeah.
I'll just get lost. That's the best. You go to it and it's just kind of like you go there and it's like you just sort of it's almost like you're going into a cutscene in a video game. You just sort of like go in, you start, and then time goes away. Like 5 hours just disappear, and then you come back out and you're like, holy crap, I love that. That's the best feeling in writing when you just
That
it feels
yeah,
like time is just gone.
that's magic. Whatever
That's
it
when the
is, that is
magic
magic.
happens. That ideal, I guess that's my send off. Is just like I hope we both find that soon. Like I hope we both find that consistently. Like imagine having that every
I
day.
I hope I that is what I hope that every writer feels like every time that they go to the keyboard.
Yeah,
Because when you experience that and when you experience that on a consistent basis, you're like, this is the greatest. I
exactly.
never don't want it to be like this.
Yeah, no. I hate not writing because I just know I should be doing it. And I need to yeah, man.
Dude, I know you gotta go.
Yeah.
I love this. I
Yeah,
love
man.
talking to you, man. Seriously.
Absolutely. Whenever, dude.
I'm definitely gonna have you on because I think conversations like these are so important for oh, my dog is barking. Conversations like these are so important to have.
Yeah.
It makes I feel like every time I talk to you, it makes me better. I come out with
Same
understanding
here.
something new.
We're always substantive. That's what I
Yeah.
like. We're really getting into the nitty gritty. Thank you for having me on, Tim.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming on, man. I love this.
Awesome. All right, man. It was a pleasure. Merry Christmas, and
Merry Christmas, man.
hopefully we'll be talking soon. We definitely will.
We definitely will be. All right.
All right. See you, Tim.